So basically, you would kind of have very dry skin, frizzy hair, a bigger belly that you can't shift, sleep disturbance, probably some kind of digestive problems, and it's all, what's behind all of that is stress. I was teaching a class at MIT, and a really young woman stood up and said, when I was in a really busy, stressful job, I had a heart attack. And it was interesting because in your mind, when you're talking about the kind of people that have heart attacks from stress, you are imagining like an older guy, maybe someone a bit overweight. So to see this, just woman that looked so young and slim and healthy, to hear her say that actually had a really, kind of big impact on me. But it was when I was working with a really big global bank in several different capacities. So I had seen their employee engagement survey. And then they came and told me that they were seeing a lot of either deaths from or heart attacks that didn't cause death on the trading floor. And they wanted, because I was a former doctor, wanted me to help them, deal with that. And I said, but I've seen your employee engagement survey, so I know people are really stressed. So I know those two things are connected. So we actually need to deal with that. They couldn't understand that. I mean, it was like 15 years ago now. So the whole idea of the brain-body connection has evolved quite a lot since then. But what was so obvious to me as a doctor was really not obvious to them, to the point that they wanted to help these employees, but they could not understand that you had to deal with the stress. You couldn't just deal with the heart attacks. And that's definitely driven by the stress hormone. People would report to me that they had gained weight, that as a result of that, they had started to eat a bit differently, whether it's a bit less or a bit more healthily, and they started doing some more exercise, but they still couldn't shift the weight. And as soon as I heard that, I knew that it was promoted by cortisol. So even if you eat less, or you move more, or both, if you've got these high levels of cortisol, it's still driving that, depositing the fat into your belly. So it's kind of, we have subcutaneous fat and then we have visceral fat. So you're not getting fat all over, but it's mostly the belt that people would say, I've had to undo it a notch and I just can't shift it. So basically you would kind of have very dry skin, frizzy hair, a bigger belly that you can't shift, sleep disturbance, probably some kind of digestive problems. And it's all, what's behind all of that is stress. Because it's kind of behind whatever inflammatory, marker you're seeing, it's almost like it's hidden. So, even if we understand that a certain disease is kind of like underpinned by inflammation, we're still not necessarily taking that step back and saying, what are the stress factors in your life? What I hear when I'm, in a taxi talking to the taxi driver, or just, me with my girlfriends or whatever, is still this idea that men don't talk to each other about things like stress and mental health as much as women do. I think that because of this myth that women are better at multitasking than men, women put a lot of pressure on themselves to do everything, be the mum, the wife, still have a career, do your fitness. Often with the kind of type A personalities that I work with, they've got a super stressful job, like they're a law firm partner, and they go and do really high intensity exercise. And I'm always telling them that is spiking your cortisol. So actually, you are exactly the kind of person that should be doing more gentle exercise because of your your personality type and the stress of the job that you've got. And I think that women under stress can either, skip meals, or because of the pressure of being a certain weight, they can be dieting in a way that's not actually healthy and helpful. So I think that contributes to, stress on the system, because if you're not properly fueled, then it's really hard to do all the things that you need to do. So I think there are different issues for, the two genders that we're talking about. And there is some research that shows that men are very good at adaptive stress responses. So if there's a crisis, they can deal with that for a short period of time, but they need then to just go away and hide in the cave and recover. whereas women find ways to recoup their resilience better during long periods of stress. Because there's two main ways to offload stress from your system. One is physical exercise, which sweats out the cortisol from your body. And the other one is speaking out loud, or possibly journaling as well. But I think speaking with someone, because then you've got that sort of social connection piece. But instead of ruminating on your thoughts, if you actually get them out of your brain-body system, that reduces your cortisol levels too. And I think, I imagine that you confide in your wife. I think a lot of men confide in their wife, but I think that confiding in other men is still not happening as much as it could. So the amygdalae are two almond-shaped structures that are in the limbic system, which is it's the sort of size and shape of your clenched fist. It's deep inside your brain, and then the cortex is the part of the brain that's around that. And in that system, there are these two almond-shaped structures, which is where all of our basic emotions start from. But the limbic system and the cortex, they're talking to each other all the time. And the prefrontal cortex is just the part of the outer cortex that's here at the front. When we experience an emotion, the prefrontal cortex can kind of regulate that so it's not too extreme. But when we have high levels of cortisol, then we're experiencing more of these what we call survival emotions, and the prefrontal cortex is getting less of the blood supply with the oxygen and the glucose in it, so it's less able to regulate those emotions. So the survival emotions, fear, anger, disgust, shame, and sadness, which correlate with the hormone cortisol. At the other end of the spectrum, we have joy, excitement, love, and trust, and they correlate with the hormone oxytocin. So you can't be in those two states at the same time, because one of those hormones is higher than the other. So you literally cannot, trust yourself, trust anyone else, trust your decision-making when you're in this stressed state.